Hello, my name is Dubemi Quillo, and this is my research project going over the Trans-Saharan trade. Overview. The Trans-Saharan trade was an extensive network of routes crossing the Sahara Desert, North Africa, which is here, and the Mediterranean, which is right here. This gave commercial independence during the ancient times all the way up to the 16th century. It was the exchange of goods, culture, and ideas, and notable countries included Egypt, Mali, and Ghana. Cultural and religious flows, including the conversion to Islam for West African nations, was also apparent during this time. It was a sand road. The trades happened on sand, and again, more countries included Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Ghana, Mali, Sudan, and many more. Early beginnings. So in the beginning of the Trans-Saharan trade, the Empire of Ghana came to power, and they were the biggest. They controlled trading routes, and they taxed most of what was going on. And the start of the Trans-Saharan trade came because of high demand for resources outside of home countries. So countries would have specific resources, and they would want other countries' specific resources. Like, for example, if one country had salt and another country had some ivory, they would want to trade between. So that was the demand for it, and it led to trading routes being made. And then the introduction of camels was also a big part of it. Camels allowed for transportation, and they would ride in groups. And then the Berber tribe was also a big part, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. Speaking of the next slide, network. So network just means what was going on. The three biggest parts were, again, the Berber tribe. They were the main users of the saddle, which would ride on the camels and could hold the goods to be traded. And then caravanserai were places of rest, to stay, of people that were trading, and they'd have places to rest, so it'd make it easier for them on their trading journeys. And then caravans were just groups of camels that would ride together, and it would make it easier to transport goods because there was just more, and they would all ride together. And then the goods that were traded, the goods that were exported out of West Africa included gold, ivory, cola nuts, and spices, and slaves. And then the goods exported from North Africa or the Mediterranean were salt, textiles, luxury items like glass, and horses. Formation of empires. So this is a map of the empires. Formation of empires. So this is a map of the empires that mainly benefited in the Saharan desert from the Trans-Saharan trade. The first empire is the Empire of Ghana, which we previously talked about. They were the first to benefit. They mainly benefited due to tax control and controlling the routes and taxing people that use said routes. The second empire, and the most notable one, is the Mali Empire. They were an Islamic nation, and They mainly benefited just because they were Islamic, and a lot of North African nations and Mediterranean nations were also Islamic, so they liked trading with them. And then the last empire is the Sanghae Empire. Yeah. Key trading centers. So we won't go over all of them, but the Timbuktu trading center was located in modern-day Mali. It gained its place as one of the more famous ones. It was a place for scholarship, culture in the Mali Empire, and it was a place of teaching for Islamic religion as well. And then the Gao, another major city in Mali Empire. Gao was found near the Niger River. The city was an important trade center as well as a political one. And the last one we'll go over is the Cairo. It was a central hub for Egypt, and it was the most important center for connecting Africa with the Mediterranean. So it was very important. And most of the world, especially in regards to trade dealing with luxury items. So it was like a big trading hub for luxury items and spices. The Islamic influence. There's a lot on this slide, but to sum it up, Islam spread to West Africa with Muslim merchants who traded in the region, and by 1300, because Mali was Islamic, and they were the biggest empire, their influence spread out to other West African countries. And the empire that followed Mali was the Sanghae, and their kings were also Islamic. Trade between Islamic nations was exclusive, so North African countries were more likely to trade with Islamic West African countries rather than Ghana, which was not Islamic. And yeah. And then the Arabian language became governing and legal language in these West African Islamic countries. And then the cities and the trading centers also became places of teaching for Islamic practice. And then famous or important figures include Mansa Musa, who was the most famous leader of Mali. And then the founder of Mali, Sundiate Keita, he was the first leader for the Mali Empire. And Bin Battutia, he was an explorer. He was an explorer during that time. Al-Bukhari was one of the first trans-Saharan explorers, and he wrote a book about the trading routes and then just the Arabs in general. Okay. And then here are my sources. And that is my presentation on the trans-Saharan trade.